I'm Novak, and we're looking at the highly anticipated 2012 electric vehicle, the Chevrolet Volt. Remember when General Motors was getting a lot of criticism for the cars they were building and they were in a lot of trouble? Well, how did they answer the criticism? The Chevrolet Volt is what they did. The Chevrolet Volt, it's an electric vehicle with an extended range. What does that mean? There's lithium-ion batteries in here that operate on full electricity. No gasoline propels the vehicle. That is until the charge runs out. The extended vehicle capabilities means that after a range averaging between 40 to 80 kilometers, what kicks in is a small gas 1.4 liter engine, but it doesn't actually connect to the drivetrain. What it does is fuel a generator to have extended range. Unlike vehicles such as the Nissan Leaf, which is when you run out of charges, you're done. That's that range anxiety feature. With the Chevrolet Volt, you could go as much as 500 kilometers and still be okay, which is a big advantage in today's realities, especially when we're going to get people to convert over to this kind of technology. So one of the big questions about the Chevy Volt is whether or not it actually helps when you have a Chevy Volt in terms of reducing our carbon impact in regarding the fight on global climate change. Well, the short answer is yes. The exact long answer, though, is how much depends upon what part of the country you live in, and that basically is dependent upon where how each province generates most of its energy. In provinces like Alberta that has a high reliance on coal energy, you'll still reduce by as much as 25% versus driving a regular car. Whereas in places like Quebec, where there's a lot of mostly hydroelectric use, it's estimated that the impact of carbon emissions versus driving a regular car would be as much as 99%. Here in Ontario, where I live, they only use coal power and oil, natural gas fire plants during the daytime, whereas night, when most people will be doing the charges, you're usually mostly hydroelectric, nuclear, and even some green energy. So across the country, the average is about 80%. So the answer, yes, driving a Chevy Volt will help reduce the impacts that vehicles produce with respect to climate change. What happens if you get to the end of the charge life and we run out? Well, this is not a range anxiety situation. It's not like the Nissan Leaf where you're stuck. As you can see here, I've got about 2 kilometers left to go until we're running out of charge. But what's going to happen at that point is it's just going to switch over to the generator, which is fueled by some gasoline. I've got still about 436 kilometers of range left, so I'm more than fine, even though the charge is about to run out in about 1 kilometer from now. But that's the way the extended range works on the Chevy Volt. So how do you plug in the Chevrolet Volt? It's very simple. All you do is you press the button inside the door, this opens up, and here's the outlet. It's very simple. You can plug it into your standard 120 volt outlet at home, or you can purchase a 240 volt charging system, which then you'd hook up with an electrician. Standard overnight charging times is about 8 to 10 hours on the 120, about 4 to 5 on a 240. The lithium-ion battery that this connects to is a fantastic system because of, just like your cell phone batteries, they don't have a memory, so constant charging will not affect it. And in fact, some people are worried about here in Canada, they say, well, batteries don't last as long. Actually, the reverse is true. The worst situation you can have is when you're down in Arizona in hot climates. Here, it's actually not a bad thing. You can keep charging it up, and Chevrolet has guaranteed the Volt battery for 8 years or 160,000 kilometers. That's a great deal. General Motors is trying to market the Chevrolet Volt as a family vehicle for commuters. Their research shows that about 70% of Americans, anyway, have an average commute that falls within the capacity of the battery to do so without having to rely on supplementary fuel. Now, if that's the case, there is one kind of a drawback. It is a hatchback, but for a family, the hatchback space is kind of small. There's only about 10.6 cubic feet of storage space, which might be a bit of a challenge in the weekly grocery category, and it's only a 4-seater too, so depending upon how large your family is. Earlier the week I tried to play golf with this, and my golf clubs and pull cart were really stretched inside, so if there's one drawback with respect to this, it is kind of small for storage. The 2012 Chevrolet Volt is an amazing technological feat here. It's really taken all we've been talking about for several years and brought it into a new vehicle. The extended range battery element of it, where you can drive beyond the charge, I think is what's going to be a big marketable feature above, say, what the Nissan Leaf or other future vehicles can offer of the same category. Now, is this the perfect vehicle? No, there are obviously some things that still need to be worked on, but is this something that's far better than anything we have on the market for a vehicle of this category? Absolutely. It's something I think that we have to be celebrating and encouraging. Now, one of the drawbacks, of course, is the price. The MSRP is around $41,000, but in certain provinces, like here in Ontario, you are getting a $7,200 rebate from the government, so it does bring it down. That being said, well, it's not a 10 out of 10 in my books. The Chevrolet Volt certainly earns a 9 out of 10, and this is something that I'm celebrating, and I'm very excited to see if this is where we're headed. The future looks fantastic. For Envirodad.com, I'm Eric Novak. I'll see you next time.